absolutely brilliant, this, mate. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of stage 4 in terms of the kind of feedback and some of the kind of tricky encounters, and I really like the point you emphasised about, and it's not doing it falsely, like bigging up the person. Like I love that example you used based on my example, that the guy giving the explanation, everything he said was good to the kids. So we want to just make sure every child kind of benefits from hearing that. I really like that. But I wonder if you can just take me through the structure of these conversations that you have and the feedback ones. Do you, just to give you a kind of couple of examples of things I've done in the past, which I've kind of ditched a bit. Sometimes I used to open up with, how do you think that went? I'm not so sure that's the best idea. And these days I tend to try and open up with some specific praise, some actual concrete things the people did really well. How does it play out for you?
Again, it varies so widely. You know, when we do, so at TTA, when we do an observation, we also expect the person who's been observed to write a full reflection.
Oh, okay? Wow.
So what went well is an EBIs in granular detail. And we always start by inviting them to give their reflection. Actually, that's not how we start. I'll get to how we start in a second, but we invite them to give their reflection. And I say, you know, I'm going to just ask you to give your reflection. I'm not going to say anything at all while you're doing it. I might make some notes, but like, don't read anything into my face or whatever. So I'm just here to listen to you. Okay. That's all. And then I'll give them feedback on their reflection, right? Such to the extent, and I know this might sound horrible, but if I think someone's given a bad reflection, I'll send them away.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I'll say, look, I'll be really honest with you. I don't think that's a great reflection on the lesson. What I want to do is I want to reconvene. I want you to go off, and I want you to really think. And normally, it's when a person hasn't put anything in there what went well.
Right. Okay.
Right. So they'll say a whole load of EBIs, and I say it makes me really worried that you can't see all of the good things you did in the lesson. Okay. And the reason why it makes me worried is because if in your head you're like thinking, oh, it was terrible this, terrible that, terrible the other, you're less likely to be able to hear the stuff that I'm saying, because you're just going to be at this like low ego point. Yeah. Okay? So I would like you to go away and come back to me with some proper WWWs. And it's really mean, but it works. Yeah. And they come back and they say, yeah, I'll be honest, I did do X and I did do Y. But part of that comes from the fact that because we have a clear vision of good teaching and learning, it means that a person can come to me and say, you know, I was cold calling throughout the lesson. And I'm like, thank you. Right? Was that so difficult? Like, don't take this stuff for granted. Yeah. And with new stuff, I'll model that process. Right? So, for example, let's say I'm watching a do now, and the teacher say doesn't circulate. Right? Like in your example. I don't start there. I say, look, okay, in the start of the lesson, you were standing in your threshold, which is great. Okay, because it makes it more likely the students are going to come in and get working. You then moved to your perch, which again, where you could see all the students and they could all see you. You then waited, you were narrating compliance, you were talking about the students who were doing the right thing, you weren't making any like loud projections. Why has nobody started? There was work on the board, the quality of the work was good. All of these things are what went well. This is what goes in the what went well column. Don't take it for granted. And if you can't spot these things, that makes me worried and it makes me upset. So there'll be that process.
Would you do that even if is that just for a full observation? If you were doing like a drop-in and having a conversation after that? But it would start with, either way, would it start with the staff reflecting on their own lesson?
Only for the really like big chunky ones.
Okay, fine.
Well, I mean, even shorter ones, I'll ask them for a quick reflection. But it's not of the same, it's not the same kind of level of importance.
Okay.
So I'll always say, you know, talk to me about the things that you think went well and you could have done better, but it's not got the same intensity around it.
Of course.
Because that one, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, we don't get enough time to like, just sit and think, put the time aside to think about our lessons, to think about our learning. And that's the goal of that big lesson observation. And I want people to take that time. And I want people to bathe in the waters of teaching and learning nerdery.
Nice.
I want people to have that opportunity. So that's kind of important at that point. When it's shorter, I don't. So the whole how do you think it went? You often set yourself up for failure there.
Yeah.
They'll be like, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, here we go. Here we go. Exactly. Or they'll say, yeah, I thought it was really terrible. That's actually useful knowledge because it shows that problems got someone might have esteem problems that you need to build up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so maybe a bit of that, but I don't go crazy over it. The one thing that I never compromise on is the discussion of what the feedback is going to feel like.
That's interesting. And you do that at the outset of that conversation?
At the outset.
Okay.
The first time I observe someone.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I've observed someone already and they're used to it, it's not an issue. But the first time I meet a new person to give them feedback, always explain what it might feel like, why I think it's important. I give specific examples of when it's been done to me and how I felt about it. And I say that I'm not doing it because like I want to be mean or get any kicks. Okay, that's really important. I'm doing it because this is the way that I think teachers improve.
Yeah.
And then I say, I just want you to know everything that, and actually I normally say this at the beginning. I say, everything I'm about to say, I say to every single person I observe.
Right, okay.
Okay? It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't need to listen to it and start panicking or whatever. I say it to absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
Whether I'm observing a trainee or a principal, I say it to absolutely everyone. All I want you to do is just listen.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I do the shtick.
And the shtick,
and then I
is
say,
that, do you explain, my hypothesis was this, the evidence I gave was
no,
this?
So basically what I say is, I say that a lot of the stuff we spoke about at the outset of this podcast, I talk about how the feedback that I received, I thought was vague.
Yeah.
And even things that I did sort of agree with, they didn't make much of a difference to my teaching. And then I talk about the way Thanos dissected my lesson. And the way he offered direct challenge to me. And I said, I strongly believe that people don't change unless they're challenged. And it's my job here to change you as a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. Not like reform you, but to make small behavioural changes here or there. I strongly believe I can't do that unless I directly challenge you. Lots of teachers, I'm afraid, are not used to this.
Yeah.
They're not used to being directly challenged. They're used to people saying, oh, well, did you think about pace? Or did you think about differentiation or metacognition or whatever? This feedback is going to be challenging. Okay? You will feel it. Okay? You might feel defensive. It might feel uncomfortable at times. But that's because it's challenged.
Yeah.
It's challenging, and I'm trying very hard to change you. And I don't do it from a position of like, me just trying to boss you around. I do it from a position of love and from a position of knowing that you, like every other teacher in this country, just wants to get better and is crying out for the kind of feedback that's going to help you, that's going to change you, that's going to alter your practice in small but significant ways. Let's get started.
Got it. Okay, so you've given that. Then do you present the hypothesis and the evidence? Would that come next?
Yeah, it'll vary, but
there or thereabouts.
Yeah. I always try and start with stuff that I really like.
Of course. I like
things like that.
Okay.
And then jump into kind of scenarios.
Okay, fantastic. Now, this is the bit I'm really interested in. So we've talked a lot about the different hypotheses you may form and the evidence you may present, and how sometimes that'll be received really positively. Sometimes, it may take a bit more time for them to kind of get on board with it. What comes next, Adam? Because I think this is where I've gone wrong in the past, right? Because if you just leave it there, it's a bit of a disaster, right? This is what I thought was going to happen. Oh, look, it did happen. See you later. Obviously, there's got to be something for them to go away with. So do you then, how directive are you there? Do you say, okay, let's think about a lesson you've got coming up tomorrow. Let's start planning out what we can do differently. Let's rehearse it. How does that play out?
Yeah, it'll vary. So the instructional coach type people always advocating this like deliberate practice. Yeah. So going into an empty classroom and walking around and practicing instructions. Yeah. Me personally, I don't rate that kind of stuff. I used to do it, but I actually don't think it works, and I just think it feels a bit weird.
Oh, cool. Can you dig into that a little bit? Because again, there'd be massive advocates of that, right, out there.
Yeah, I just think it's weird.
And like the rehearsal part of it.
Yeah, I just think it's weird, and I just think that it's not my experience that actually helps people. They like freak out and shit like that. I just find it a bit strange, and also it doesn't apply to everything, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on it. I'm not telling people not to do it. I just don't myself.
Okay.
Normally, I'll try and write like an action step. Okay, and I'll try and check the action step. I'll try and check the feedback. So let's say in the course of a lesson, I noticed a teacher giving band instructions once, and then band instructions 10 minutes later. Okay, so we'll do the number one, and we'll talk about what happened and why it happened. And then I say, okay, now let's fast forward a bit in the lesson. this is what happened. What do you think happened next?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, definitely a couple of kids got it wrong because my instructions were blah, blah, blah. They're like, bingo, you've understood. Okay. Excellent. Okay. From all of that process comes an action step. So a thing that I want them to do next. And then...
What would the action step be there for that one?
I mean, it really varies depending on what you've seen. We could spend hours talking about how to craft a good action step.
Give us a few. Give us a few good ones.
So I tend to basically have three components to an action step. One component is what you actually have to do.
Okay.
So let's take the example of the kid who isn't listening when the teacher asks a question. Okay, so the strategy to use there is called no opt-out.
Mm-hmm.
It's Doug Lemmoth's strategy, Teach Like a Champion, which is where you say to the student, I'm going to come back to you in a second. You bloody make sure you're listening, right? So that's a thing, the strategy I want them to use. I like to put a reason in there as well. So in this case, it will be raise accountability or build ratio. And I like to put in a kind of phase. So I might write something like, during verbal questioning, raise or increase ratio by using no opt-out.
Got it. That's good. That's good.
So I'm trying to get as much, sometimes called semantic density. I'm trying to get as much meaning as I can into just a few short words. Good. Stuff like that. When using mini whiteboards and checking for understanding, ensure students are ready to practice by rechecking areas of common error.
Yes.
That's the example we spoke about before.
Yes.
People there was a common error. You retaught it, great, but you didn't recheck.
Yeah.
The reason why you need to recheck is to make sure that they actually do understand or to make sure they're ready to do their own practice. And the time phase is during mini whiteboard work.
Got it.
So you might write it something like that.
That's great. So you've written the action step down, and then would you kind of joint plan? Would you say to them, when are you going to use this specifically the next time? What's it look like?
It depends. It depends. With stuff like the verbal questioning, it just feels weird to have a conversation like that. I might say, so what kind of a script might you use for no opt-out? And they'd be like, what do you mean? I say, well, look, if it's me, I'd say things like, David, I'm a bit disappointed that you don't know the answer. Make sure you're listening and we're going to come back to you later. Or I might make a suggestion like having a mini whiteboard where you write down David, then next to it, photosynthesis, because you've got to go back to him with a photosynthesis question at some point. That kind of stuff. If it's something that's a bit harder to do, if a teacher, let's say a teacher's standing in completely the wrong place in their room.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll go into their classroom and say, where are you going to stand?
Yeah.
And they say, probably here. I say, no, don't stand there, stand here. I'll explain why. I say, okay, let's say you want to go and circulate to that kid over there. How are you going to walk to that kid? And they'll be like, I'm just going to walk to them. Like, no, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Right, that kind of stuff. So sometimes, there is play acting. There's body positioning. There's gesture, things along those lines. Sometimes if, let's say I go into a lesson, science lesson, teacher's explaining something using a PowerPoint. They're just mashing through the PowerPoint. It's terrible explanation. It's unclear. Kids don't follow. I ask a couple of kids some basic questions about the explanation. They don't know. We sit down and say, so your explanation, to tell you the truth, I was a bit worried that the students wouldn't get it. So, because I think there's just so much on the board and it didn't feel like there was any kind of plan and you were going backwards and forwards and it just felt a bit disjointed. So I asked a couple of kids and some basic questions. They didn't know the answer. So can I, is it okay if I just show you the way that I would have explained it? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And I say, it's okay. So, and I get my board out and I say, well, I'll do it like this, and a bit like that, a bit like that. And I say, I'm just going to ask you to be really honest now, yeah? Whose explanation was better? Now, if they say they still think theirs was, well, we've got big issues. Okay? We've got big issues. But I've done this now, I've done that exact exercise, I think 25 times, and no one once has said that they thought theirs was better. And I say, okay, now can I be a bit direct with you? Do you think you could deliver that explanation that I just gave? And they're like, yes. And I say, okay, well, I want to be very, very clear now. You've said it's better. You've said you can do it. We do not have a legitimate ethical choice but to deliver it like that next time. And they're like, yes, I agree. So great. What are you teaching tomorrow?
Yeah.
And they're like, leaf structure. So brilliant. Here's a board. Show me.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I'm not really sure where to start. I said, let me have and we might work it out together. And we might do 3 or 4 across the course of their day tomorrow, if we have time. But again, like, that's not always necessary. It just very much depends on the exact context.
When would it... So I'm big into this. I'm big into, after the hypothesis, the critical evidence and so on, I'm big into, okay, specifically, when can we make this change next? And if it's a case of, dig up your plan for your next lesson, or let's plan something together, or let's model it out. I agree with you. Sometimes the kind of rehearsal bit feels dead awkward. But when would you ever not? I can't see a scenario, certainly when I would never not say, when can we make this change for the first time? Specifically, when are you going to...
You would say that. I was talking about the play acting
right.
Thing, right? Like, let's say someone isn't cold calling.
Yeah?
They're not cold calling. You've spoken to them about it. They agree with you. They need to cold call. Yeah. So, like, to go into a room then and start practicing cold calling with like empty questions with no students is weird. If to me it feels weird. Some people do that. Fine, whatever. I don't, because it feels weird. But like the next step is brilliant. So who are you teaching tomorrow morning first thing? Like 8 set 2, whatever. Perfect. Are we going to get cold calling throughout that lesson? Yeah, definitely, 100%. Beautiful.
Okay.
And again, depending on the context, like if a school has invited me in, I'm not sure if I'm going to be coming back. Yeah. So if it's someone that I know I'm going to be seeing again, I just say, I'm looking forward to seeing that next time I come in. I'm going to come in soon because I really want to see it. I'm really excited to see it in play. Yeah. And I'm going to come back in soon. If it's school that, I've just visited and God knows, I've just offended 50% of their staff, like God knows if they're going to invite me back. It's a miracle that I've not been kicked out of the building yet and I'm marched out by security. But I've not, so I don't know if I'm going to be coming back. So all I can do is I write it like an implementation plan for the head of department, very clear, very staggered. And again, I said to you, I'm very blunt. I said earlier I was blunt with SLT. I'm not just blunt with frontline, I'm blunt with whoever needs it. And I said to SLT very simply, I said, I wrote an implementation plan. You've paid money for me to be here today. If the implementation plan isn't followed, then you've wasted taxpayer money. And I just stop there and wait for a reaction. And again, because it's about challenge, and they nod and feel the defence and then go, yes, okay.
Got it.
And, if I'm not coming back in, what more can I do? But if it's someone that I'm going to be seeing regularly, I would definitely be saying, I look forward to seeing that in the next lesson, or I'm going to come back in at a particular time and I'd like to see it, or I'll ask them to send me a video, or I'll ask them to, I observed a lesson where the teacher had this mad complicated worksheet where they had like different grids and the students had to match stuff up from different sheets of paper and it was just like chaos, and it meant that there were so many procedural issues where kids who were trying to do the work just had no idea, like physically what they were supposed to do. And I just said to them, mate, like it's just not, And what I did is I said, look, this is how I'd do exactly that. And I worked with him because it wasn't my subject. And I said, look, let's put this here, let's put this in, let's just do questions like this, like that, straight down the sheet. So you've got basically the same substantive stuff that you want the students to be doing. It's just cleaner and clearer. And he was like, yeah. Perfect. Makes sense. I said, brilliant. It's Tuesday today. When do you next see this class? And he's like, tomorrow. I'm like, great. Tomorrow morning, can you send me the worksheet that you're going to then use with that class? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And he did. And it was much better. And I said to him afterwards, I was like, how did it go? And he was like, they all did the sheet. It was wonderful. And I'm like, yeah, because, it was cleaner and it was, calmer and procedures were kind of in place. It took him like 3 minutes to do. But it made a big difference to his lessons. So, yeah, there has to be follow-up. There has to be some kind of accountability. If you can't do it yourself, so we're quite lucky in our school that we have, SOT in and out of lessons the whole time, and we all speak very deliberately with one voice. So we have a department handbook. SOT walk in, they match us against the handbook. Like, oh, you said that you're going to do a do now at the start of every lesson using carousel. There's no do now here. End of story, right? You've said you're going to do it. Yeah, it's got to be there. And that helps as well. I go to some places where SLT have radically different visions of what good teaching looks like, completely disagree. They're at war with each other at times. And it's not a healthy environment for the development of teaching and learning. Everybody's got to be on the same page. I observed one of our maths teachers recently, and I said, our maths department teaches radically different to the way that I teach. And she did something in the lesson that I thought wasn't right. And I thought it meant that students didn't get X, Y, or Z. But I wasn't sure about it because I didn't want to conflict with their handbook. So I went to, in this case it was Sammy, and his co-head of department, and I said, this is what happened. Can we discuss it before I give her feedback? We sat and discussed it for about 45 minutes. The feedback, that bit of the lesson lasted about 30 seconds, right? But under no circumstances am I stepping on anybody's toes. Yeah. It's not going to happen. We have to speak with one voice. And if there's something I'm not sure about, you're damn right I'm going to check it. You know, all of this is about, you know, it won't surprise listeners of the podcast to hear that I have ego problems. It's something that I'm fully aware of. I think the big difference between me and others isn't about magnitude of ego. It's about awareness. Yeah, I know it's been pointed out to me. Thankfully, I have a very kind and loving wife who consistently points out to me when I'm getting ahead of myself. And I have to work really, really hard to push that side of me away and just focus on the facts, focus on the evidence, try and avoid bias, and try and just be relentless in focusing on improving teaching and learning with a keen eye to what achieves behavioural end, what achieves behavioural change. And part of that's challenge and part of it is accountability. When we do CPD in the school, we ask people, we do homework, right? So I'm delivering CPD at the moment. We break up into small groups. I'm delivering CPD about modelling. The participants are expected to do a video of them modelling something and send it to me by a certain point, and they will do. And if they don't, they get a very grumpy email, right? Because, you know, it's in addition to my role. I offer loads of help and support in advance. I offer loads of additional time. I'm going to watch the videos over my weekends so that I can prepare the session and give them the most amount of time to get it to me. Like, it's not okay if they then don't send it to me. But that level of accountability, if it's not there, you're wasting your time.
Good.